And welcome, Trophy Kids, presented by Bad News Media. It is week 2 of the NFL. Oof, week 1 had a lot to offer. We had one of the greatest football weekends ever. You had football Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night for college, which was just chaotic. I shouldn't say nights, days. And then Sunday, where that 4 o'clock slot got a little weird. 1 o'clock was weird. Overtime at Sunday, Monday night football. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was weird. Week one madness. We see it all the time. It's real hard to predict. We got some winners. We definitely picked some losers as well. But hey, that's all right. We're learning. We're learning these teams this year right now.
I'm going to get to the Titans at some point, but I'm going to have to Men in Black myself in order to bet that team again. The way they lost that cover, I have nightmares at night. And then got the statistical background of it, which we'll get to in a little bit, but it's like the first time a team that's a 4 point more underdog up 17 has lost or failed to cover, I should say, not just lost, but it's incredible. Either way, as always, we were recording this on a Thursday night, so we won't really get to talk about the Bills Miami, but I think we'd be remiss not to at least mention those two teams given the weeks they had, both on and off the field. But we'll talk about the on the field part of this. The Bills, once again, it's the Josh Allen show, do everything. And for the Dolphins, I don't know. How do we feel about those two teams after week 1? It is just week 1. We don't want to super overreact here, but it is a little peek into what these teams offer.
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins. They almost made me look really stupid. They only made me look a little stupid. Because man, I told you I was promoting, maybe even considering an alt line, making the spread even a little bigger than it already was. And going into the second half, it looked like they might lose by 10. So thankfully they didn't. But they still didn't cover. So that's a big loser. But still, it's hard to make this team right now. They're kind of already, they're kind of already getting the injury bug a little bit. This Thursday night game, kind of bad timing on a Thursday. It's kind of nice they're getting the Thursday game over with, but they're already looking like they're nicked up a little bit. And yeah, you said it. The Bills. I mean, it's the Josh Allen show. He's just. I mean, he it's a roller coaster, but man, when he's going, it's going.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's awesome as a non-Bills fan to watch Josh Allen play, but as a Bills fan, it has to be miserable because it's week 1 and this man's acting like it is a Super Bowl. He has no self-preservation whatsoever. You are playing the Cardinals on week 1 and you are already getting injured because this man is a maniac with his body. I mean, it's awesome, but it's also got to be absolutely nerve-wracking. Miserable is not the right term.
Yeah, I would think so.
Nerve-wracking. It's absolutely incredible. But we do have some games to talk about. Like always, we'll go through the entire board, let you know if we're betting on it actually or if we're just kind of making the pick for the pick's sake. But the first time in the modern NFL that we have back-to-back seasons where in week 1 and week 2 we have no double-digit spreads in the NFL. Very interesting. I thought coming into it. I don't know if that's necessarily a sign of just the talent level getting better, the mix of the preseason being so sloppy and kind of messed up teams aren't performing as well. I don't really know what to make of that, but I thought it was an interesting line that we haven't had in the first 2 weeks of back-to-back seasons, a single double-digit spread. But
Yeah,
with that
yeah,
said,
I definitely am surprised by that.
yeah, we come in with the Raiders Ravens. Line is at 8, getting close to double digits. Over under 41.5. Oh man, the Antonio Pierce show just off to a I wasn't high on him coming in, but some head scratching decision making there with his fourth down calls. And a Raider or a Ravens team who once again shows in week 1. I'm an idiot because I picked them, but like you just can't bet on this team week 1. They don't take the preseason seriously at all. Sloppy football there at the end, but an exhilarating finish to the end of their game. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, this is the game that the Ravens were hoping was going to be their week 1 game where they could kind of, because they've been getting kind of hooked by the schedule gods recently, with their week 1 opponents, because you're right. They don't really prepare preseason wise in terms of playing their starters. They almost kind of use their week 1 game as their little dress rehearsal. Last year, they kind of got lucky. They're facing CJ Stroud in his first ever NFL game. It worked out for them. This year, they got the Chiefs, so that did not work out. Obviously, you got to be real prepared for that team. So they're excited here. I think this is what they need. I know it's probably, I'm guessing it's the biggest spread. It's got to be on the board.
It's a
I think I still think they're going to cover it. It's kind of their get back game here. It's them at home. It's a West Coast team coming across over to an East Coast team playing at 1 o'clock. We see how that kind of works out. Also, Yeah, like you said, Antonio Pierce, man. I mean, 4th and 1 in your opponent's territory, you got to go for it. What are we doing?
Oh, I don't, I don't know. Like 4th and 1 in the first half goes out there in his own territory. But then later on 4th and 1 in the Chargers territory, you're not going for it and you're like kicking a field goal, you're punting, you're down 16-10. And you're like, screw it. 7 minutes left. Let's punt the ball back. What are we doing? To a team
Defense,
that's
gentlemen.
punt heavy, too, by the way. This isn't a team that's like hardball will go into a shell if need be. It's just I thought the other surprising thing is for like a Raiders team. I mean, Pierce is kind of the rah guy. Like, we're going to mentally beat you up. I kind of think they got handled by the Chargers. It's especially in the lines of scrimmage. I thought they got kind of pushed around there. I don't know. This is a ginormous spread though for this week. There isn't a you are correct. It's the biggest spread on the board. I'm not really high on the Raiders this season. 8's getting a little out there. I'm not ballsy enough to jump on the spread. Um, but yeah, I don't have much on this game to be completely honest. Outside of Antonio Pierce is an idiot. Like that's about all I got for you. um, with that being said, Saints Cowboys. This game is a mile marker game for me because we saw the Saints absolutely whoop up on the Panthers, and we'll get the Panthers in a little bit. But I was not particularly high on the Saints this year. The offensive line looked really good, but then again, you're going against the Panthers. Their only real threat last week is Clowney, and you and I both know what Clowney is at this point in his career and just who he is as a player. And if that's what your anchor is for pressure, it's not great. But the Saints, to credit, I think they only gave up like 2 pressures all game, which if you're giving Carr time to just do his thing, he will be an accurate quarterback. But Cowboys are their opponent. We know that they can generate pressure. They looked good in their first game. Two teams that looked really good in their first 2 games. We're going to get a real test here and a good data point. How do you make this game? By the way, I forgot to read off the line. 6 is the line right now. Cowboys are favored over under 47.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a tough. I mean, it's definitely a good gauge game for the Saints. Obviously, let's see, how good this team really is. This could like maybe be a sneaky good game to watch on the 1 p.m. slates, maybe. Um, but then you got to question yourself. Yeah, obviously they did this against the Panthers. The Panthers are a mess. Like, I mean, they almost should get relegated from the league. Like, I don't know what's going on over there. So can this New Orleans team keep up with the Dallas team that I think could pretty much score, around 30 points a game this year? I don't really think so. So I lean Dallas, but like I said, this is definitely it's a tough game just because we don't really know just how good the Saints are yet.
This is fair. I have a stat here to back it up slightly. I don't love these stats, so don't read into them too much, but they are an interesting peek into the mindset of a coach. Dennis Allen off a win is 5-18 against
Ooh,
the spread. Not good. So there's a little confidence if you're thinking about backing the Cowboys. For me, this is a sit and see kind of game. Like I was saying, it's a mile marker. Like I need to get a better data point. I keep the first 2 weeks in the NFL. I try to keep as much dry powder as possible in my bankroll for later in the season. Week 1 and week 2 are very same thing in college. I'm just trying to get data points because of the way the preseason works. College is obviously a little different with the transfer portal. But what these teams really are, the offensive line here for the Saints is going to be the most important watch for me. If this offensive line holds up, well, I do think we're going to have to take the Saints more seriously as the season goes on here. Because, like I said, if Derek Carr has time, he is still plenty capable of tearing it
oh
up.
yeah.
But if that line is what we expected them to be, which is not great, and very poor communicators across the front, and will give up a ton of pressures, well, then, we may need to pick and choose our spots as to when we're taking the Saints here. But that's neither here nor there. We did mention the Panthers here. Chargers, Panthers. Ooh, a franchise in trouble. Line is at 5, over under 39. I feel bad for Bryce Young. I don't even know if I feel bad because it's honestly incredible that he's made it to this point at his physical stature. But you want to talk about a guy who's got an image problem right now. He shows up to training camp looking like it's the first day of middle school with that picture that was going around. And then in that first game, it looks like they plucked a dude from the stands to come into quarterback. He looked lost out there. There's a reason we have measurables in the NFL. Like you do sort of need to be a certain stature, or if you're going to be like a Kyle Murray type, you just need to have unbelievable athleticism. Bryce Young doesn't really have that. He's got good anticipation. He's a very smart guy, clearly from a quarterback standpoint, but at the NFL, it just looks lost. And then you got a Chargers team who I think looked better than maybe anticipated just because there is so much new. We talked about the OC and the schematics that they were going to try to run there, but they looked really good in the trenches. This line is sitting at, I said 5 right now. It's been moving around. I am not good enough to bet this. I don't have the ball to do it, but I do want to throw this out before I give you the chance to analyze this game. Stuckey over the Action Network tweeted this out. The NFL buy low spot. Dogs of more than 4 points off a 35-plus point loss have gone 48, 18, and 2, 72% over the last 20 years. I don't know if I'm ballsy enough to put my money on the Panthers, but what are we thinking of this game?
It's an interesting nugget, but like I just think the Panthers are just a special case where like if you put them on that list, there's an asterisk. Like one of those teams in the losses is a Panther team. Like they're bad. I mean, who knows? It's the NFL. Maybe they'll go out and they'll make me look stupid and they'll go and win. But yeah, I feel a little bad for Bryce. I mean, I did not expect him to come out year 2 looking like that. That didn't, like, it just looks like the game is it's just moving too quick for him. And I just feel bad that it doesn't seem to be clicking for him. And then you got the Chargers here. Chargers came out, they played good. They ran that shit out of the ball. J.K. Dobbins, I swear, I hope he stays healthy because I don't know what the yards per carry record is like for a full season, but that guy, every season that he plays, it's like 6 yards per carry.
It's incredible. Yeah, he is a man that you just are like, God, can he just stay healthy somewhat? Can his body not fail him? Because if not, oof, he's
even
a ball player.
The game he just had after the injuries he's already had, just that alone is ridiculous. Like he could retire tomorrow and just be like, "Yep, I accomplished it." Like I don't. Dobbins he's amazing. So I think the Chargers, they're going to come in here, they're going to dominate the ball. Joey Bosa, he's always getting hurt. He's hurt, but hopefully he's able to play. They still have a good pass rush on that team. So yeah, I just think the Chargers go in there and they just kind of own the game, basically.
Yeah, that was a hardball game. Like that is what I expected from
Yeah.
the ball team last week, where it's like offensive line did a good job pushing around the defense line, and the defense line did a great job stuffing the run. And if that's what you're going to do, I mean, Harbaugh's proven that he can win at virtually every level. If you can play that style of ball, we'll see over the long term how successful that is. But you're getting the Panthers team, who, like I said, they just don't have much defensive line wise. I think they're going to get pushed around once again here. Maybe they get a little bit more offensively because they're a little embarrassed as what happened. This is the National Football League, but I don't have the cojones to lay on the Panthers after what I just saw in a week 2 spot. If I saw if this game was like week 13 and we saw that they were more up and down, maybe. But in week 2, I still don't know what this team is at this point. The 49ers Vikings. This is a game that I am slightly interested in. Lines at 5, over under 46.5. Slinging Sammy was just out there getting himself a good game 1 win for the Minnesota Vikings. Then you got the 49ers who just had their way with that Jets defense. I mean, there wasn't much. The only times they were failing was due to their own failures, not because the Jets were putting up a fight there. This is an interesting matchup, though, just coaching wise, players involved here. What do you make of this game?
It is interesting. And Sam Darnold, he has had moments in the league, especially when he's on new teams. He's had moments. But something does feel maybe a little bit different. I have a lot of respect for Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a really good coach, really good offensive mind, good with quarterbacks. So I think this is more hope for Darnold than I've ever. This is the most hope he's ever had. So I think he might have a decent season. I don't think he's going to be a stud quarterback, but I think he might be like borderline okay to good.
Yeah.
However, the Niners, man, this team's sick. They're so good. It doesn't even matter when Christian McCaffrey doesn't play. I mean, they're just a finely tuned machine. These players have all been playing together for a long time. They're well coached. They've got studs. I mean, they have Hall of Famers all over the place. I mean, they have 2 Hall of Famers guaranteed on offense, and they have, in my opinion, 2 guaranteed Hall of Famers on defense. I mean, they're awesome. Excuse me. They're awesome.
Yep.
I mean, there's just nothing that you can do. I don't know what to say. So yeah, I think they're gonna win. They're gonna cover.
It's incredible to watch. I said this on the recap I did on TikTok, but it's like Kyle Shanahan's just an offensive savant. It doesn't matter that your all-world running backs out. It doesn't matter that you're Hall of Famer, maybe the best to ever do it at left tackle, missed all of training camp. It doesn't matter that one of your key wide receivers is a contract dispute during training camp. It doesn't matter. They're just still
Nope.
going to produce an offense. You got a quarterback that was completely overlooked. You just find ways to win with him. Like, it's incredible what the 49ers are able to do year in, year out. And Kyle Shanahan, at this point, it's a machine where you just plug clogs into and it keeps on rolling. Um, which is incredible. Sam Darnold, I'm glad you pointed out Kevin O'Connell because I don't think he gets as much due as he probably should because the Vikings sort of, I mean, that
Right.
fan base just goes through the ringer because it's like, man, this team, you look at some of this offensive line's good, two good tackles, decent running back, Justin Jefferson. And yet, your rookie quarterback you're excited about blows out his knee because he didn't take more than 9 dropbacks in college. But he still was looking good. But we talk about how he's such a good coach, and he did it with Sam Darnold. We talk so much too about how playing quarterback is so much about confidence. And we talk about like guys like Daniel Jones who lack that confidence, or like when people go to other teams, how guys start to believe in them. You see it with Tua down in Miami, and how he's really kind of felt like he's revitalized his career because of the confidence. I mean, Kevin O'Connell goes out there and gives Sam Darnold not hard throws to complete in the beginning of the game. He starts the game 12 for 12 completion wise. Like, it's just like, let's get some momentum here. Let's build some confidence. And then we can start to push the ball. He ended up 5th in completed air yards per completion last week. Like, it's really good, really fun to watch. I think the concern, if you're a Vikings fan, though, is defensively going up against this Kyle Shanahan offense. A lot of too high safety looks and a lot of blitzing. And the Shanahan offense is designed to turn that around on you and get egg on your face. And so I do worry about whether or not the 49ers, this might be a spot, or for the Vikings, where you might be buying them a little too high. And so I don't know. We'll see where that number moves. I don't have a plan on it just yet, but I am watching to see if that number continues to move up. Then maybe I'll make a play on the Vikings, but we shall see. Browns Jaguars lines at 3. Over under 41.5. Jaguars are favored. Deshaun Watson can't play. This man is cooked. We have been trying to tell you that since the day they gave him that contract. This man can't play football. What are we doing in Cleveland right now? It's incredible. I don't know what to
Yeah,
say.
it's bad.
And then you have Baker out there just ripping it up,
He's
and you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's gotta hurt. He's just lost his ability to play football. Too much is, too long away from the game, too much mentally going on in his head. And there's the additional, situation that seems to be coming towards him now. I did hear from Mike Florio, who's, he's a law guy. He says that somewhere in the contract, if this new allegation gets serious, Cleveland can get out. Oh man, Stefanski's just fingers crossed. I mean, that's what they need to happen.
Because
That's
he
what they
can't play
need.
anybody else but Deshaun at this point. Like, I do believe the front office is just shoving him down, Kevin Stefanski's throat. Like, you can't play Jameis. We have way too much money in this guy right now.
Correct. And Stefanski wants to play Jameis, and he should.
Yeah. I mean, the Browns last week, first 40 plays went for either 0 or negative yards. Deshaun Watson was 30th in completed air yards per completion at 2.6. 2.6 completed air yards per completion last week. What are we doing?
Yeah.
I mean, at
Yeah.
least
That's
Jameis's
terrible.
60-yard arm punts are better than that. Like, sure, Jameis is going to turn over the ball,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a bomb, and at least just write it off as a punt in your brain. Just write it off. Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. All right, whatever. At least we pose some threat here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a disaster there in Cleveland. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. And then you look at the other side of the ball in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I tell you, it's a team you're like, hey, they're pretty good. And then you just keep watching the game. You're like, no, they're just going to Jacksonville like they do all the time. So I don't really have much faith in them. I don't have much of a. I don't really have a play in this game. I have a play in almost every game. This game, I don't think I have a play in it. I'd probably go with an ETN touchdown. I would do that.
I don't hate that. Yeah. I feel like this might be a spot for how bad the offense is. You may want to buy the Browns a little low because defensively, I do
Oh
think
yeah.
they are going to be too much for this Jacksonville team to handle. Um, we'll see. I mean, at some point mentally, we've seen this, even though they're professionals. Like when the offense is literally doing nothing, teams do eventually sort of quit. We'll see
Yeah.
if that happens here. But like, I do think this might be a buy low spot. Um, Colts Packers lines at 3, over under 40 and a half. Oof, man. Packers. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Malik Willis is running out there. Can't even get a Hail Mary off.
Yeah, I
Colts
know.
though. I mean, that was a lot of possession time to not come out with a win last weekend too. Two teams here going at it to try to get a win in week 2. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, these are just two interesting teams. I do feel bad for the Packers, and that was just such a good game. And even I was just like, I mean, we're going to get a pass off. Like, come on, Malik, just get the damn ball off. So that was annoying. And then you got Anthony Richardson, and he can get the ball off. Holy shit! That bomb. I mean, that was a 70-yard dot, dude. I mean, that was unbelievable. I know it was a 60-yard touchdown, but that ball went 70 yards, and I mean, he barely even drove off his back foot. I was blown away.
He's an athletic freak. It's incredible. Just hasn't played a lot of football, so there's not a lot of touch on those intermediate throws, but the man is an athletic freak. You can't take that
Oh
away.
yeah. I mean, halfway through the third, it's like you're like, wow, Anthony Richardson's a beast. But then you look at his passing line; he has 93 yards. You're like, well, he had 60 yards in that one pass. You're just like, all right, well, whatever. But this is a tough game for me to figure out because I actually think like both teams are pretty good and actually both teams really compete hard. Um, for some reason, though, I do kind of like the Packers at +3. I just see the Colts just playing in a lot of close games this year. They just strike me as a close game team, just the way that they play. They're not quite dominant, but they are good.
Yeah,
So I that's just how I kind of see this game going. So I'll probably take the Packers.
I'm with you. I'm taking the Packers only because Gus, the defense coordinator for the Colts. I don't know if you people know this, but he might be the most stubborn man in the world. That man, I think I saw he played 2% man coverage last week. The man just plays cover 3 and calls it a day. He doesn't change anything game in and game out. It's incredible. I don't know how he's still hanging around in the league, but he is, and defenses somewhat play for him. So the predictability factor there, it makes it a little easier. I don't love tying up my money in Malik, but I mean, hey, we'll do it.
Right.
I'll rock Panthers. Bucks Lions games at 7.5, over under 51. I am going to this game because I am a glutton for punishment, apparently, to watch my Bucks get smacked up and down defensively on Sunday. I don't know if they have a prayer to cover this Lions offense. This is one of those situations, and it's not because we wouldn't be good enough. We're just banged up and it's week 2. I mean, there's 2 guys on our defensive line, questionable. 3
Yeah.
starters from the secondary out. Winfield, arguably one of the best safeties in the league. You could probably make an argument that he had the best season last year from the safety position. Out. I mean, I don't know how we stop the Lions outside of them, like maybe tying their shoelaces together. Like this is a game where I'm a little worried. We shall see, though. And then I flip the ball, and I think offensively we have a chance because we saw Cohn come out there as our OC in his debut and do a really good job play calling. Can't speak today. Number 1 in EPA per play last week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers looked awesome. Baker looked great. The young guys were performing. Mike Evans is aging like fine wine. Chris Godwin returning to the slot was a massive factor, which we had pointed out too. So like, I feel like these are just like, can the Bucks keep up offensively? Because I don't know if I have much hope for the Bucks defense to stop this Lions offense this week.
Yeah, I think this is actually going to be another good gauge game situation, just because I really, I don't think my Commanders are a good football team at all this year.
Also fair.
So I think it's kind of like you're kind of like in the same situation with the Saints here, where you're playing a top-notch team, but you're coming off a really good win. So like, how good is this Bucks team really? I'm a little biased because you just beat the crap out of my team, so I kind of think you're gonna cover, but. I totally get what you're saying. This Lions team, like they're for real. They're motivated, especially there at home. They're a scary team to go. They're a scary team to go travel to, in my opinion.
I agree. Um, I do like the Lions in a teaser. Sorry, that's what I was most agreeing with as far as like
Yep.
Bucks maybe straight up on if you're trying to bet on the spread because 7 is we'll see. But I do kind of like the Lions if you can tease them down in this game. I think that's a pretty, I'm already kind of looking at it, not to give it away, but like a Teasers Texans or something like that, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, this is one of those games. If the Lions' passing effort cannot get going, I think it's a little bit panic city because, like I said, with the injuries that are present in the Buccaneers secondary, you got to be able to move the ball. Like you're in a dome, you're in a control environment, you're at home. The Bucks are not, I don't think, gonna blitz a ton here. Who knows? Bowles is a bit of a madman. He might leave his DBs on an island out there. Goff has done a good job shredding them. We'll see. All right. Seahawks, Patriots. Patriots getting a win week 1. Whew, a lot of survivor leagues. RIP right there. You had, I don't know if you saw the clip, but Marshawn Lynch just going up to the head coach, giving him a shoulder rub mid-game. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. He's out there like, who is this man? It's Marshawn. Okay, cool. We'll roll with it. Lines at 3.5. Yep. Saints are the favorite. How are you looking at this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because the Bengals were so. I mean, I was watching a good bit of the Bengals game. They were just terrible. It's not like the Patriots were like that great. The Bengals just they were like allergic to the end zone. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen. I really haven't seen a game quite like that. Like, I mean, it was just like, oh, they scored. Well, let's find a reason why they didn't score. Well, okay, they actually didn't score. It was just really strange. So I can't really decide how good the Patriots are. Seattle, I'll be honest, I did not see much of Seattle. I know they won. I did not get to catch much of their game. So I don't have a huge play on here. I lean Seattle just because I just wasn't impressed with what I saw out of New England at all, even though they won.
Yeah, I think Seattle will be a little bit better than what people are anticipating, mostly because of the defense. I do think Mike McDonald's is a very good defensive-minded guy. I think he's defensively, the Seahawks will be a little bit better than initially anticipated. Their run game attack, I mean, that's virtually all they've got offensive. That offensive line. Some point, some year, you got to address that better. Like you got to get some better guys. I know they've tried, through some draft capital and stuff like that, but at some point you have to get that unit right if you want to compete at any form or level. But yeah, I didn't get to watch a ton of it, and I didn't catch it on the replay. I only saw bits and clips. There's a hilarious clip I'll ask about here in a little bit if you caught it, and then if not, I'm going to put it in the podcast. It is so funny for one of the Bo Nix's interceptions. But yeah, I think I probably lean Seahawks in this one. Jets, Titans. Like I said at the start, I might have to Men in Black myself. Evan Abrams of the Action Network tweeted this out. Dogs of 4+ points to lead by 17 or more at any point in a game are 66 1-1 against the spread since 2019. Of course, I am the one on the Tennessee Titans. The Bears do not even have an offensive touchdown. Caleb Williams threw for less than 100 yards, and they somehow not only win that game, but covered that game. I don't even know what to do with myself on the Titans. I am going to have to try to get amnesia to forget about these Titans to try to be able to bet on them again this season, because I just, what a horrible showing. Like just talk about letting a game slip through your fingers. Tennessee Titans, good God. And then the Jets, we talked about it. Rodgers maybe being a year too late on this. We'll see. It's a long season. It didn't look horrible. There's a guy for the Atlanta Falcons that looked a lot worse coming off his injury. It's still there, but you could still sort of see, he's a little bit older. The injury may be lacking a little bit of the mobility zip. Still looks good. By no stretch of the imagination. We're not overreacting and say the Jets are going to be bad here. Just, are you good enough to achieve the long-term goal you had? Seasons are long and it gets quite cold in New York. I don't know if that brittle body can hold up. We'll just say that. What do we make of this game, though? Projecting.
Yeah, I kind of agree. First of all, I thought it was funny. Brian Callahan was just basically like, I mean, I told Will just don't turn the ball over, just don't do that. So I thought it was funny. They're already kind of like clashing a little bit, and like I don't usually like when a head coach does that, but he's right. I mean, he's just like, I don't really have an explanation because there really isn't one.
Caleb Williams is playing one of the worst games ever as a quarterback, and you turn over. Like a punt is so much better there. Hell, a fumble, but getting down is better there than what happened.
Oh, anything.
Anything
would have been better than what he did. I mean, it was terrible. And then Rodgers, you're right. He definitely has lost a little mobility. Still, the arm is mostly still seems to be there, but he's a guy who was always dependent on his mobility. Always has, even when in his older ages, when he's playing 36, 30.
All right, little technical difficulties, cutting off right in mid sentence. Gotta love that. But you were talking about Aaron Rodgers' mobility, I believe, when we left off with that abrupt cut.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's definitely lacking that mobility, and that is going to hinder him, I think, in the long run this year. I think he'll still have probably a good year as long as he stays healthy. But I after watching that game against the Niners, now things can change. Little, maybe some doubts on whether this Jets team can actually get to a Super Bowl. However, in this game, I do think they probably win and they cover.
I don't hate that at all here. Like I said, I can't go back to the Titans well this week. I can't do it. After seeing what happened that week, like, do I think they'll probably be a little bit better? Sure, maybe. But like I cannot after that fumble, I cannot do that. Fumble of the cover, we should say too. All right. Giants Commanders. Line is at 2. Commanders are favored over under 43. Oof. You want to talk about a bad showing. New York Giants, tough first go of it. Commanders also had a little bit of a tough week against the Buccaneers, but your week at least didn't include your best offensive player popping up on the injury report today. Malik Neighbors, his name has popped up on the team injury report, listed as limited in today's practice due to a knee. We talked about it in week 1. If he at all gets banged up, that's like 90% of their offense potentially right there. Wearing those terribly ugly uniforms. You can't start a season in those. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's strange. Like that, like a lot of times, like these teams do wear these strange uniforms, but it's rare that it's like week 1, like just like right out the bat. No, I thought that was kind of odd too. I was like, well, interesting timing.
Absolutely ugly. But what do we make of this game, given it is your team and the Washington Commanders?
Yeah, just first off, I want to say it's year 2024, and correct me if I'm wrong. Daniel Jones has been starting on this Giants team since 2019. Is that right?
It's crazy. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because he was in the 2019 draft, and he started as a rookie. That is insane to me. Like my team has not figured out the quarterback position whatsoever, but we are not afraid to be like, all right, you suck. Let's try someone else. Like I don't know what the Giants have been doing. I mean, I know the contract came into play and everything, but that blows my mind. That if I was a fan, I would be like, what are we like? We're wasting my life with this guy. But that's crazy. It's just truly is insane. And then we look at my team. I don't know how you felt. Maybe I was just trying to make myself feel good. I kind of liked what I saw from Jaden Daniels. He never looked rattled. He never looked like nervous. He never looked like that we were never really in the game. But it never really looked like he had like any sort of welcome to the NFL moment. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more downfield passing, but I just kind of liked what I saw confidence wise out of him. He was clearly the best rookie quarterback that played that week. So I like that. And my God, is he fast? Holy shit, he's so fast, dude. I mean,
he's a guy that cannot go the Josh Allen route, though. He needs to some self-preservation because I talked about this when he got drafted. He took some cartoonish level hits, like just anvil out of the sky hitting him.
He got nailed in college, and I remember him running in college, and he was fast then. But I don't know, something about what I saw on Sunday. I was like, my God, he's fast. He looked faster. But yeah, as far as this game goes, I think we are the better team than the Giants, but I always think we're the better team than the Giants, and the Giants always beat us. It doesn't matter. It literally there's something wrong with this team when they play the Giants. Last year, we lost to DeVito, we lost to Tyrod Taylor. Daniel Jones is 5-1 against us. And also, the Commanders, unfortunately, we lack the necessary pillar positions in the NFL that you need to have like success. We don't have a pass rush. We don't have a secondary. We don't really have any wide receivers. We kind of think maybe we have a quarterback. We don't really have a very good offensive line. And the Giants have 2 elite pass rushers. They have Daniel Jones, who is just as mobile. He's actually more mobile than Baker, and we saw Baker moving around the pocket like a magician. And he's not nearly as good as Baker, but I think the mobility is going to hurt us. I actually think the Giants are going to win this game. They always beat Washington. Always. It doesn't matter.
You know what's funny about the mobility? The only note I have for this game is Daniel Jones has to run. That's it. Like if he's mobile, then the Giants have a shot, I think, in this one. But if he's not, he has zero pocket presence. I don't know how a dude is so oblivious to like a closing pocket as Daniel Jones is at times, like just zero spidey sense whatsoever. But they have to get him more running. Like he's a big physically imposing guy. Like I don't know how Brian Dable doesn't turn him more into a Josh Allen type. Like clearly not as good as Josh Allen, but having that heavy dose of just like, all right, go out there and be a physically imposing runner. Because at this point, like there's nothing else to it. If everything stays the same, this is his last year as a starter. I mean, he may not even make it through the year as a starter for the New York Giants. Like there's almost got to be less self-preservation and just be a more designated runner, be more mobile.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that idea. The only thing I think is I don't think he has that reckless abandon mindset that Josh Allen has. Josh Allen is a nutcase. I don't think Daniel Jones is.
This is also true. The whole like went to Duke thing is probably hurting him here. Had he gone to Wyoming, maybe he'd be a little bit more of a maniac.
Yes.
The Duke alumni thing is probably hurting him here. But I agree with all that. The one thing I was gonna say, the one thing I did notice about the Commanders too, Lincoln Riley, not a big fan of pre-snap motion. I don't remember seeing virtually any of it there to help try to tip the defense's hand. Let's see if he incorporates that feels like a point that like every talking head now kind of like beats home. Like or you could be, you don't have to be tapped into the NFL world, and you probably heard it. Like play action and pre-snap motion helps all quarterbacks, but there is truth to it. It does tip the defense's hand a little bit, and you'd like to see with a rookie QB just a little bit more pre-snap motion to maybe tip the defense's hand a little bit.
Completely agree. Completely agree. And it's funny you made the same mistake that I make all the time. I also mix up Lincoln Riley and Cliff
Oh,
Kingsbury. I do it all the time too. So it's funny you did that. But yes, you're absolutely correct. We don't have motion, and it's like Terry McLaurin lines up here 99% of the time. So it's well, what are we doing? I'd like to see a little bit more innovation. So I'm not impressed yet.
Yep. And we know my war with names is ever going.
Always.
Always. Speaking of his old team, Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Rams. Line is at 1, over under 48. Good night, the Cardinals. That team, you want to talk about a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Here's a terrible trend that seems to continue year in and year out for Kyler Murray. The man can't throw a deep ball. He was 1 for 7 on passes that went 10 yards or more down the field last week. I mean, there was obviously that shot that's going around with Harrison Jr. just wide open, streaking down the field, and he completely missed him. That man also, I don't know, like similar to hockey, but not to the same extent as hockey. There's a lot of NFL players that are playing with things that we never really know of, or it's downplayed to the extent. I don't know if Harrison Jr. has something going on. I'm going to hope to God he does, because that man looked like he had cement in his shoes in that game. That was something for a debut. And then you have the Rams, who are already banged up week 1. So what a game this is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is an interesting game because the thing I will say is both teams are like, they're injured. They're both kind of roller coasters, but both teams at the same time had moments in week 1 where they came out better than I was expecting. So maybe these teams are a little better than we were thinking. Cooper Kupp is back. Last year that he was clearly injured. Even when he came back, he was dealing with an injury. But they're already, Puka's already out. I haven't even looked at the Cooper Kupp numbers. I'm taking over in receptions. I'm taking over in yards. I wish there was a target. Maybe there is a target wager. I would take the over in targets. He's going to get so much work as long as he stays healthy while Puka is out. I mean, he received an unreal amount of work in week 1. I would just take the overs there. I lean the Rams. I was a little bit more impressed with the Rams, I think, in week 1. I think the Lions are a more competitive team than, playing the Bills at home week 1. So I'm leaning Rams here. Probably take them on the money line, to be honest. So yeah, I'd probably go with that, and I'd go Cooper Kupp overs, everything.
Yep. I was just going to say money line. It's at minus 102 right now compared to the +1. I'm with you. I think the Cardinals are going to be better than what people expect. I think the Cardinals might be what people thought the Panthers were going to be, because people thought the Panthers might be a little frisky this year. I'm not saying the Cardinals are going to be good. They're going to be a roller coaster ride. That defense has got a lot to figure out, but I think week to week, there are going to be moments where they are playing cartoonish level football, and you're like, oh, this is pretty fun. Like there's just stuff going on where it's going to be entertaining to watch. And that in the NFL, volatility presents opportunity. I just don't think, I think there's a strong coaching edge to McVay. You want to talk about another guy, regardless of injuries, plug and play, those teams are in it. I mean, there's no reason that game, they should have been in that game going into overtime with the offensive line
Yeah.
injuries they sustained, with Puka going down. But McVay just finds a way to get his teams to always overperform relative to the talent level that he's presented with. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. Really is.
Yeah, so the Rams are a one that I have also put my money on in that, but I'm with you on the money line there. Bengals Chiefs line is at 5.5 over 48. Chiefs are the favorite. I don't know why I do this. This is another team. It's almost like each season my brain goes to mush in week one. Why am I even contemplating betting the Bengals in week one? This team doesn't know how to get off to a fast start if their life's dependent on it. They're off like a herd of turtles every season. And here I am just betting away on Joe Burrow's injury proneness in a team that, I mean, Jamar Chase, there's some concerns there. T. Higgins, there were reports in Cincinnati. There was rumblings, I'm based in Cincinnati. There were rumblings locally that T. Higgins approached training camp like you'd think a guy would, that's pissed off about his contract situation and doesn't really want to be there. There were some of those rumors flying around, and sure enough, that passing offense looked like hot doo-doo. So,
Yeah.
but this is a team that when they play the Chiefs somehow get the best effort ever, because they are 3-1 in the 3 games they have played, and all games have been decided by 3 or less. So, yeah, what are we making of this one?
Yeah, it is so annoying. I did the same thing. I was in on the Bengals, and the annoying thing is they're bringing up how the Bengals are always off to these terrible starts and everything. And it wasn't like it was news to me or anyone. Like that's already ingrained in our brains. Like we know that, but we just think whatever. They're so talented. Like they've got a top 3, top 5 quarterback. Like what are we thinking? But they did what they do. I don't know. I don't know. This was. I do kind of believe it in some way. This was week 3. I might take Cincy, but there's something about this. I don't think that they've gotten that taste out of their mouth yet. I think that this isn't the game that they need on the schedule right now. But don't you worry, Bengals fans. Next Monday is your get right game. You'll be fine. But I don't think
I will be there as well for that.
yeah, I don't think this is going to be it for them. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah. The Bengals have a massive problem on defense. I don't believe I brought this up last week, and I'm pissed because I knew it heading to the season and it came to fruition. Without DJ Reader, that defense has a problem stopping the run. I don't know if I've seen, there are been men out there, obviously. Aaron Donald's a little weird. Sue when he was in his prime. Guys on the defensive line that are the absolute anchor that when they aren't there, teams have a hard time figuring out how to actually stuff the run. The Bengals, we've seen this when he's been in and out of the rotation, they struggle. They struggled mightily last week, and they're still trying to get things figured out. And I know they got a situation where they got to pay a lot of guys, so that meant guys like Bates were leaving and other issues. But like Lou has got his hands full trying to figure out these defense, and it's week 2. And that is why I come back similar to your point. If this was week 3 or 6 or 7, maybe I'm taking the Bengals, but like they are still very much trying to get things figured out. Now, there's another part of my brain that goes, Lou always somehow figures out this Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid offense like mid-game, and then the defense sort of clamps down in the second half, and they're making just enough plays to keep that offense around so that Joe Burrow and his guys can go make plays. But it then comes back to the fact that this is week 2. Jamar Chase, it's sort of, I'm not saying the book is written, but I think there's a level of concern out there about his inability to win man coverage battles, because he is fantastic at finding the open zone and like finding soft zones and getting open in that. And him and Joe Burrow have a telepathy there. And Joe Burrow is so good at getting behind center or lining up to take the snap, reading the defense, understanding the coverage, and getting it out. But there have been signs that Jamar Chase, he's still fantastic. I don't need Bengals fans coming at me here. But like there have been some weaknesses that have been shown when you just man him up. And I think we're going to see the Chiefs just kind of have a little man coverage on him and go, hey, one of these other weapons beat us. And that could spell a little disaster for the Bengals here.
Yeah.
Big data point game.
McDuffie's a big, strong corner. Big, strong corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a feeling he is just going to be following Chase around, and they're going to be playing off coverage everywhere else. And that will be the game plan. And it's going to be like, hey, can you beat us elsewhere? So big data point game here for the Bengals. Steelers Broncos. Line is at 2.5. Under over 36. Steelers are the favorite. I don't know if did you see this clip of Bo Nix late interception?
Unfortunately, I did
It might be
not.
one of the funniest clips ever because you cannot see the wide receiver defenders, but I don't know who was on the call, but he releases that ball and all you hear it goes, "Oh no." And immediately there's three defenders covering the one wide receiver and a pick. But before they even come under the screen, whoever's calling that game, you just hear him go, "Oh no." It was one of the funniest things I have ever heard.
Don't do it, kid. Don't do it.
Ball could, like, the moment the ball is released, he's just like, "Ah, damn it." It's so funny. I'll have to find the clip and send it. I'll put it into the podcast. It was hilarious. But yeah, tough. There was a full Bo Nix experience. And you're getting the constant professionals in the Steelers here. But the line is at 2.5. Potential teaser mode. I particularly, without going too far into it, this is one of those teams where you could throw into a Lions teaser, a Texans teaser. I think teasing the Broncos up to 8 may be a spot just because I don't think these two offenses are doing a lick. I mean, you've got a total sitting at 36.5 with these two offenses. It feels like somewhat of a slugfest, and you're giving me 8.5.
Yeah.
If I tease it up, I'm just putting it out there for the listeners. How do you break this game down?
I do like the idea of teasing that up just because, like you said, these offenses, now the Steelers defense might score.
That's true.
That's a little bit of a concern. But just the offenses, they don't have the ability to, beat each other by double digits, in my opinion. So I like the 8.5. I am going to say this now, and it annoys me. Steelers, they're going to make the playoffs. The team, they're going to make the playoffs again. They always do. And every year on this podcast, I'm like, please don't give me a Steelers playoff game because it's not going to be a good game because they're going to be playing a good team and going to kick the shit out of them. And I can already tell the Steelers team, they're going to sneak into the playoffs. It's fine. It is what it is. Yeah, I like the tease. I like the tease. I also, if you don't want to tease, I like the Steelers as long as that stays at 2.5. I do.
That's how I read this game. Under 3 Steelers, and then if you want to throw, I think the Broncos are like a perfect potential teaser leg here, just because of the style type. And I do think Bo Nix, like, he has a lot of deficiencies in his game. I don't really know where his ceiling is. I think it's relatively low, but I do think his floor is higher than what we saw in that. Like, he's a relatively accurate guy in the short to intermediate. I imagine Sean Payton, once he gets a better feel with him, will limit his playbook a little bit and just sort of play to more of his strengths, short to intermediate, every once in a while taking a shot, heavy motion, heavy play action, running the ball type of stuff. A lot of what they kind of ran at Oregon, because he is accurate. He's a very accurate quarterback in the short to intermediary game. It's just reading things, trying to make big plays is where he gets a little out of his depth. Yeah. Talking about a guy who may have been a little out of his depths. Bears, Texans. Line is at 6.5, -6.5, over under 45.5. Here's the good news, Bears fans. I don't think it can get much worse. Like, I really don't think you could have much worse of an introduction to the NFL, but you are getting the Sunday night primetime game in a ruckus building because there are expectations for the Houston Texans. So I don't know, maybe it could get worse, but it's hard to imagine it can. How do you make this game?
I was borderline stunned by how bad that was, to be honest with you. I really was shocked. I mean, really good preseason where you saw, just ability with just like, wow, this guy's gonna be really good. And he still will probably be really good. But man, I was shocked. But there are a few plays where he's running around and making throws. I'm like, that's a throw you make at USC. That's not a throw to make here. So yeah, there was some of that I saw. He'll play better, but I don't think they're winning, and I also don't think they're covering. This Houston team's real. They got a good defense as well. This place is going to be on fire. It's Sunday night game, primetime game. Caleb's second game ever on primetime. Maybe they backdoor it, but I don't feel great about it. He can't, like you said, he can't really play worse, so he's got to play better. But I think this Houston team's really good.
Yeah. The real problem too is D'Amico Ryans is a very good defensive.
Yes.
Like, it's tough. Like, while I think he will play better, I still don't think it's going to be good. But the backdoor cover is potentially in play here, which is why I really like the Texans teaser with like the Lions or Broncos. But folks, if you're gonna do a teaser with the Lions or Texans, I'm gonna put it out there. Check the money line parlay, because you are teasing two favorites down, and that juice may not, the math may not be there because you're getting them so low, almost to pick them. It may be more worth it to do a money line. Just gonna throw that out there to the people. Try to bet smarter
Mhm.
this season. But I do like the Titans here, or not the Titans, the Texans here. Titans are just on my brain. They've ravished my brain. They've
Yep.
broken it after week one because D'Amico Ryan's great offensive mind. I really like this Bears secondary, but man, do they have their hands full. I mean, you talk about a wide receiving core that gives you nightmares at night. Texans are going to do that. Like if the
They're
Bears can lock them down, credit to that defense. My God, the ceiling on that team will be sky high. But this is a tough assignment.
their weapons, I mean, from first three wide receivers to running back to tight end to even backup running back. I mean, they're loaded, dude. Like I didn't really realize like just how loaded they were until I just saw all the names just keep popping up on my screen when I was watching the game. I'm like, holy shit, this team is stacked.
And
Yeah,
it's
they're
week
good.
one, but if you're getting that Joe Nixon, shut it
Yeah,
down. They're winning. Like the AFC South is a wrap. Just don't even bother playing AFC South games. Just get them to the playoffs at that point because that team,
yeah.
oof, man, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm with you on that. It's gonna be a fun night in Houston. To
Yep.
wrap up the week, Falcons, Eagles battle the birds. Line is
Love
at
it.
6.5. Eagles are the favorite over under 47. We talk about quarterbacks. I think this has been forgotten. I'm not the first person to bring this up. I saw it earlier in the week, but I could tell just watching the game. Like Kirk did not look right. And it brings back the point that like I think we've gotten used to in modern society, just like athletes overcoming some pretty tough injuries. But once you start to get up there in age, those injuries start to look a lot like they used to. And it looked apparent to me when any time he really had to like push off, he didn't
Yeah.
have. And there's videos of him this week trying to, take snaps from under center into a play action, and it looks rough. So I don't know what I don't know. The Falcons are too much new right now in the season. Kirk feels banged up, and this Eagles team. If you're buying this Eagles team this year, I think you're buying it because of the coordinators. I really like what the Eagles bring to the table here.
I do. And God, I just hate Nick Sirianni though. Just walking around like such an ass after every game. I'm just like, God, dude, like you're getting carried. Whatever. Your quarterback doesn't even talk to you. I mean, it's just God, he's annoying. Yeah. I this is a game where I'm rooting for the Falcons. Like I hate the Eagles. I think I hate Sirianni more than I hate the Eagles. Like I
It's
really like
100% that, yeah.
like he's just so irritating. So yeah, it's just I think the Eagles just really outmatch him. For some reason in my brain, even though the last year this did not happen when the Vikings and Kirk went to Philly. Kirk, I think, had 4 touchdowns. He played great. But in my brain, I just have ingrained like Kirk going to Philly and just kind of crumbling every time. Um, Especially with Minnesota. It didn't really happen with Washington. He had some good moments there with Washington and Philly. But like you said, last week, it was like, oh, they're under center. Well, they're running. Oh, it's shotgun. Well, they're passing. Like it was just so obvious. And like they can't do that against a really good team. I mean, it didn't work against the Steelers. I don't know. If Kirk doesn't start looking like he's healthy, I mean, maybe put Penix in for 3 or 4 games. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, he did get, I mean, when did he tear that Achilles? It was like week 10, week 11. It wasn't week 1 when Rodgers did it. I mean,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was it was kind of midway deep into the season. So I don't know. It is concerning. And even though I give Kirk a lot of crap because I don't know why I just always have, it does make me kind of sad to see him kind of struggle like that.
It does. I think the surprising thing is you go back, you remove there were 3 turnovers in that game. You remove those 3 turnovers. Even with the super predictable offense, they were relatively successful down to down. Like their success rate down to down was pretty decent. But I think that goes to show with like the talent that is surrounding him. Like if he could be healthy, what this could be would be pretty nice. But to
Mhm.
your point, at some point it may be like, all right, let's throw Penix out there and just see what he's got. This idea of like, I do like the idea of like a quarterback sitting. We've seen it work really well. Patrick Mahomes is like the perfect example, getting the year behind Alex Smith. But to the same credit, Pete Prisco brought this up about Drake May. They're like, if you're afraid that starting a guy early is going to ruin their psyche, you don't have the guy. Like that just you can't kind of hide them away. And I don't know if that's necessarily what's happening. I don't think that's what's happening in Atlanta because it's like, well, you went out and you spent the money on Kirk to kind of give you that buffer, and then Penix's decision's a little baffling given his age, but whatever. Those guys get paid the big bucks for a reason, I guess. Maybe.
But, I don't know. The Giants offseason training camp had me wondering.
The Giants season Hard Knocks. I
feel like I could have done that.
There are some moments in Hard Knocks. I forget who it was. It was in the Bears one. It was like the assistant to the GM was on. He was like, yeah, like, how do you put a value on this guy? I was like, I think that's your job is to literally assign a monetary value to him to decide if he's over or undervalued. Like, I think that is your job.
I mean, they were asking like questions and I was just answering them so fast. It's on my couch. I'm just sitting there answering the questions. And what are we doing here? And honestly, I would have kept Saquon Barkley. So, I mean, you know what? I probably should have a job.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. A consulting firm is what we need at this point or something. Give us a fraction of those salaries. It'll end up better. I can promise you that. You know who would not be on the Eagles? Saquon Barkley. I can tell you right now, if we are getting rid of him, he ain't going to somebody in the division. Kind of dumb. Oh my God, just a bunch of dumbasses. Either way, it is what it is. Also, they just come off like they are that whole thing. Whatever. It is what it is. There's a lot of thoughts I have on that whole in-season spiel that they had going on. Right. Eagles, Falcons. Yeah, I think the Kellen Moore offense could be really potent, especially with the vertical threats they present. Vic Fangio is the question mark for me because, like, historically we've seen his defenses struggle in that first year because the concepts he runs. But man, if they can get it quick, this game could turn ugly. So we shall see. But that does it for week 2. Anything before we wrap this up?
No, this is kind of a hard week for me to feel good, like what I consider like locks, but I do like the Rams money line a good bit. And I do like the Niners, even though it's a 5-point spread. I usually hate 5, but just they're so good.
The 5 is the jerky part, but I'm not opposing that. Like I said, the teaser legs are really where I'm at. That's where my bigger dollars are going this week with some formation of Lions, Broncos, and Texans. But I will tweet out some additional picks. I'm kind of watching some numbers to see if they move a little bit here. And see what we can get. Like a Packers hook would be really nice. Because then I might pour some money into that one a little bit more. I've taken a small nibble, but nothing major there. We might pile into that one a little bit here. But we'll tweet about at Trophykidspod like always. And as always, peace.